Hello all and welcome back to another wonderful video. Today I wanted to take a look at Ponytown again and kind of just think a little bit more critically and hard about things that I think Ponytown absolutely needs. So before I get into any of that, I also made a community post the other day asking what is the number one thing you think Ponytown absolutely needs. I would love to see some comments for that in the comments below of this video, but in this community post I figured I may as well just go ahead and share some of the things that you guys said on that community post and then go into my list of the 5 things I think Ponytown needs. So we have a couple of ones here, starting with finding your friends will be hard, so maybe teleporting to your friends for easier meetup. I can agree to this to a certain extent, but at the same time, it feels like it would be a really weird mechanic. I can totally see it happening at some point. I don't think it's something that Ponytown absolutely needs, something that it absolutely has to have, however. Now, Blackheart 3121 said more buildings, activities, and more things for your avatar. I agree with this one as well. I think there absolutely does need to be at least one more building somewhere because there's space for it, right? And there's some areas that just seem kind of bland or so at least at the very least redesign those sections of the map or something like that. Activities, more activities and things to do, absolutely. This can be anything from collectibles to whatever else, right? And of course, more things for your avatar. This isn't something that Ponytown absolutely has to have, but I think Ponytown will definitely get those in the future. Then we have some of these other ones here. Anything that resurrects how Ponytown was, have players getting along together without caring for different cultural thoughts, which anyone can see and feel in Ponytown now. Minigames, sure. Multiplayer PvE arena, that's the ticket. I don't understand what they mean by this PvE arena and stuff like that. I don't think Ponytown absolutely needs some kind of PvE or any kind of fighting or anything like that, right? That seems like a weird request. Minigames, absolutely, 100%. That is something that Ponytown absolutely needs, and it is in my list as the number one thing on my list. Minigames. Ponytown absolutely has to have minigames. There's tons of minigames that I've made myself in the game that they could just take from that, maybe redesign certain elements because, of course, they could make it work more properly and things like that because a lot of the minigames that you make into Ponytown, of course, like that need specific mechanics and things like that that they could just code in themselves. But yeah, minigames is something that it absolutely has to have. I think that's the number one thing that they should start focusing on rather than a lot of this other smaller stuff. I think that's definitely should be the top priority right now because it is a must-have. Anyway, Kitty's channel 156 says we need pets like chickens and dogs and cats and parrots, or just more animals, or a zoo that would be awesome to have. I don't know why they decided to use a pun there, but whatever. I can agree to this, I guess. I mean, pets is something that would be nice, but I don't think it's something that Ponytown absolutely has to have. And again, we have this person here, Emmett9857, who said more to do. Right now, there's only collecting clovers, pearl, and yearly event collectibles. I agree, there needs to be more things to do. That falls into the minigames, though. The minigames is the one thing that I think they need to focus a lot on because right now there's not a lot to do besides collect, and I really don't want to see another useless collectible like clovers or pearls because those don't do anything but inflate an artificial number that is kind of pointless to have. Peachy9283 says NPCs and NPCs that you can add on your island. Man, I'm lonely. I'm sorry to laugh at your loneliness there, but it's interesting that you would think that NPCs are a must-have in the game because I don't really think that's true. This other person says to expand OC level as well as the friends list. I'm not sure what they mean by that. I don't know what they mean by level. One person said dance moves, nuclear weapons, sad face for some reason. What was the reply on that? Someone agreed, so true, and also sad face. I don't know why you would need nuclear weapons. I don't think that's something that Ponytown absolutely needs to have, but whatever. To each their own. And then we have another request for pets that follow you, dogs, cats, and more. And then someone just said whoa for some reason. I don't know what they mean by that. But with all of that aside, let's go ahead and take a look at my actual list. Things that I personally think Ponytown absolutely needs to have. Starting, of course, with number 1, minigames. I mentioned a minute ago because a couple of people here also mentioned minigames and things to do. We need more things to do in the game, and minigames is perfect for that. You could add one minigame to start and then add more as time progresses or whatever like that. Ended up with several minigames and have a full, proper Club Penguin style game that is ponies instead, really. But yeah, I think that's definitely the number 1 thing that Ponytown needs. Number 2 is a proper report system. I'm actually surprised that no one in the comments of this community post here requested a proper report system. Right now, it is a process, a long and complicated process to actually report any players. First off, you have to hide the player, and then you have to go to your account settings, find the player that you hid, make sure you screenshot that, make sure you get your account number and information and all that other stuff, and then you have to email Ponytown and say, this is what they did, here is their name in my hidden list, and here's my account number so you can find that hidden list, and then they can find the person that you hid, because that's the only way they're going to know who you're talking about. You can't just say, oh, this person did this and this was his name. That's going to not really help them a whole lot. You need this specific thing. So if you hide them and then give them your account information, it's a whole process. It's extremely complicated, you see, but whereas if there was just a button that you could just press on a person, you click on them and press a button to report that player, it would just immediately give them all the information they need, right? And then, of course, you can email that to them or something. But there needs to be a better, proper report system. I think that is also another must-have. It's something that they absolutely should focus on right now and try and get that ironed out. Number 3 is quality of life changes to the building and how building and stuff like that works. Building works totally fine and is amazing and everything like that, but there is a lot of quality life things that I think they should just go ahead and consider adding to the game, because I think it's some things that we absolutely need to have. Something like the ability to create our own custom categories for favorites. So let's say a bush is one of my favorite items, and so is a bed or something like that. They're in totally different categories. So I have to go to one category to get the bed and then another category to get the bush. Whereas if I could customize my own categories and create a new category of my favorite items, I could put both of those things in the same category and they'd be right next to each other, making building a lot easier. Another quality of life thing for the building, of course, would be tables that actually fucking work. I don't know why this hasn't been finished yet, to be honest with you. And then, of course, a grid snapping would also be a very interesting quality of life feature, a toggable grid snapping feature, things that snap to walls and stuff like that. That would be another awesome feature. All these kinds of like snapping abilities. There's all kinds of quality of life things that they can still do to building to make it a lot easier and better for the community as a whole. And I think it's one of the things that they absolutely need to work on. So number 4 on my list is better instructions or tutorials, ways to know what to do and how to do certain things. For example, you go into the game and there's not really anything that tells you how to friend another player, right? Like you kind of have to figure that out on your own. And so a lot of people starting out playing for the first time might never make any friends because they don't know how to do that. Same thing with parties and stuff like that. For people that have played the game for a while, it's extremely obvious how to do it, but for people that have never played it before, they have no idea how to create a party. They have no idea how to get to the party island. They have no idea how to build. There's nothing that tells them how to do these things, at least not an easy, clear way to tell them that, right? There's, of course, if you go to the main game and go to the about or whatever like that, you can find certain instructions like controls on like how to move around and things like that, right? But there's nothing that tells them all the things they need to know. There should definitely be some way to find all this stuff. Maybe it's something in your settings where you can toggle on some tutorials or something like that. Or maybe when you play the game, you have this thing that you can click on or something that allows you to look up any information that you need. Maybe some little question mark in the top right corner that you can toggle on and off in the settings, but is on by default, and you can click it and it gives you all this information about different stuff, like how to make a party. You could add GIFs or GIFs, or however you want to say that, videos or whatever else like that, very short little GIFs that show how to do certain things as well as instructions. These kinds of things I think is something that Ponytown absolutely needs, because right now if you go into the game not knowing much, you're going to be very confused on how to do anything. And finally, the number 5 thing here, this I don't think is as important as some of the other stuff, but I think something that Ponytown absolutely needs is to increase the base limits. What I mean by that is you only get so many ponies that you can make if you don't subscribe to their Patreon and everything like that, right? I think there should be maybe 100 more ponies that you can make or something like that, right? And same thing with the building. Whenever you're building, you only have X amount of items you can place. I think that limit should also be increased. Maybe also increase the amount of maps that you can save by default or something like that. I think all of these limits should be slightly increased or something like that, because these limits were originally created when the game was a lot older and didn't have as many people as it does now. And if they do that, plus all these other things, they're going to end up with a lot more players, and so it's going to be a lot more complaining of people like saying, oh, I don't have enough to do this, I don't have enough to do this, and people already complain about these paywalls that seem to be there but not actually there, right? So I think some of these limits, increasing them a little bit, also obviously increase them for Patreon supporters and stuff like that, because if you're going to increase them, you may as well increase those too. But I think the base limits should be increased because the game is going to get bigger and a lot more people are going to complain about it, and I think it's worth it. I think it's worth doing. But those are 5 things that I think personally needs to come to the game, and these are a handful of things that other people randomly think should come to the game that it absolutely needs to have. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys will give your own suggestions for things that Ponytown absolutely needs in the comments below. But for now, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, doing any number of those wonderful things like that. Because when you do wonderful things like that, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, but you also get to become one of yourself, and I think we all want that. So do those wonderful things, and until next time, stay wonderful.